Figueira da Foz is a city and municipality located in the Coimbra district of Portugal. It's a coastal city with lots of beaches and different facilities along the Atlantic Ocean. As a tourism city, it plays an important part in the center of the country. But what would it be like to live here? I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere, and this is Figueira da Foz.
As a municipality, it has about 14 cities within it, some of which are along the Mondego River, some are along the coast, and others are more inland. The city of Figueira da Foz is unique in that it is not only located along the coast, but it also sits at the mouth of the Mondego River.
The municipality is not just all about beaches, though. There are some notable landmarks like the Sotomayor Palace, the old fishing village of Buarcos, Serra da Boa Viagem, which is a small forested mountain by the ocean, and of course, its large seaside promenade.
So according to legend, the city's name is because of a fig tree, which was at the dock of Salmanha, where fishermen used to tie up their boats. The word foz in Portuguese refers to the mouth of a body of water. So in this case, Figueira da Foz is fig tree of the mouth of a river, and the river here is the Mondego River.
There are varying reports on exactly how many beaches we're talking about, but it's around 21 or so. Around 14 have lifeguards, while the rest are considered wild. Either way, though, the city is called the Queen of Beaches.
If you're looking for a more laid-back beach day, head north past the forested hills of the Serra da Boa Viagem to find quieter spots like these, where you can check out some cool rock formations. But if surfing's more your thing, Praia do Cabedelo is the place to be.
So we have said that this is a tourism city, but what is the actual population? With around 46,000 people, you won't find that big city feel here.
Nope. As for eating options, you'll find a lot of restaurants that offer Mediterranean, seafood, and European cuisines, along with some steakhouses and typical Portuguese food.
Exactly. So you can find a meal at an inexpensive restaurant for around €9. If you're looking for a 3-course meal for 2 people at a mid-range restaurant, then you'll probably end up paying around 40 to 50 euros. But of course, this also depends on the type of restaurant, the location, and the cuisine.
Absolutely. One thing that we did notice while we visited is that many of the restaurants didn't open until 7:30 p.m. Portugal is one of many countries in Europe that has more of a late night culture. So this is definitely something to keep in mind if you're planning a visit or if you're moving here.
Now, you might be wondering if the daily costs of food and groceries is reflected in the fact that this is more of a tourist type city, despite its smaller population. Well, you won't find that to be the case here. Everything is pretty well priced, especially in comparison to cities like Porto or Lisbon or even some places in the Algarve.
Yeah, and if you walk into a grocery store, a liter of milk is less than €1, a dozen eggs is around €2.50, and a kg of beef is around €11.50, which is pretty reasonable. There's also a good variety of supermarkets here, so if you're familiar with any of the Portuguese grocery stores, you might recognize names like Continente and Pingo Doce, just to name a few. And then they also have a few international stores like Auchan, Mercadona, Aldi, and Lidl.
Figueira da Foz also has a variety of housing options. You can find modern apartments in the city center, charming houses in the surrounding neighborhoods, or even beachside villas. The most popular areas include Bairro Novo, near the casino and restaurants, and Buarcos, known for its beautiful coastline and relaxed atmosphere. If you're looking for something quieter, the outskirts of the town offer more spacious and affordable options.
The apartments for rent in the city center of Figueira da Foz seem pretty well priced, as they range from around 750 to €1,000 for a T3, although some areas will tend to be more expensive than others, so keep things in mind like square meters, location, and other amenities that you're looking for when you're searching for a place to live.
Right, like you also will probably find some T1s and T2s for around 750 to €1,000, but once again, depending on where you're looking for this apartment. As for the cost of utilities, something around 85 square meters will cost you anywhere from 60 to €120 for the basics such as electricity, heating, and water. And you can expect to pay around €20 for your phone for a monthly plan of, let's say, 10 GB.
One cost you will not have to worry about while living here is buying a Metro card, because
So one of the few unfortunate things about Figueira da Foz that it does not have its own metro, and from what we can tell, the bus service is sparse. It is fairly flat and has good walkability though. If you have your own car, that's obviously another way that you can get around, but even better, it'll help you get out of town for trips around the country. If you don't want a car, the city does have a train station. Whether you're coming from Lisbon or Porto by train, it will take about the same amount of time, which is between 2 to 4 hours. Figueira da Foz is also connected by bus, which is generally the way that we visited the city.
To get an idea of different cities that are around Figueira da Foz but aren't as big as Porto and Lisbon, you have a place like Aveiro, which is about 35 miles north of Figueira da Foz, Coimbra, which is about 45 miles east, and Leiria, which is around 45 miles south.
Okay, so transportation is definitely something that you'll need to keep in mind, especially if you plan to send your kids to school here. You should know that there aren't any international schools in the municipality of Figueira da Foz. And the closest one is in Leiria, which is about a 45-minute drive or an hour by train.
Yeah, it's pretty far. But of course, another great option is to just enroll your child in a Portuguese school, which there are plenty of here, of course, for kids of all ages, starting from kindergarten up until high school.
This city also has some fun extracurricular activities that your kids can enjoy. Figueira da Foz offers stuff like surf schools, dance schools, and an art school that has singing, acting lessons, and more. You can even find a jiu-jitsu fight club here. So it's safe to say that this area has plenty to offer in terms of activities for your kiddos.
And for adults too.
True.
One other great thing about Figueira da Foz is that it's a pretty good place to live for people of any age. If you're looking for somewhere to relax and enjoy yourself, there's a casino that is located near a lot of different restaurants.
If you're looking for something a little more active, we noticed that there's a tennis club in the area too. Just in general, the city looks like it has a great opportunity for all different types of exercise, no matter the age.
If you do plan on exercising, you can generally expect to have moderate weather, but maybe a little bit on the cooler side. So throughout the year, temperatures in Figueira da Foz typically range from 44 degrees Fahrenheit to 76 degrees Fahrenheit, rarely falling below 36 or exceeding 87. Summers are warm, dry, and mostly clear, while winters are chilly, wet, and partly cloudy.
That sounds about right. And on average, Figueira da Foz receives a reasonable amount of rainfall, so it gets between 24 and 36 inches of rain per year.
One concern people tend to have when considering moving to a new country is the healthcare system. This city has a well-equipped public hospital, private clinics, and numerous pharmacies. Many doctors speak English, making it easier for expats to access healthcare.
There are a good amount of healthcare units around the municipality and even some in the city itself. And you can also find a couple of good hospitals in the district as a whole and in the city of Figueira da Foz.
While Figueira da Foz is a very relaxing and peaceful place to live, would Josh, C, and I leave the luxuries of Porto and move here?
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, we've been living here in Porto for almost 5 years. And we do feel comfortable here, but anytime we travel to a place, whether it's in Portugal, out of Portugal, we kind of now do it with the lens of like, could we live here?
Right.
So that's like content, making content aside. Like we do have these discussions, like what do we like about it? What don't we like about it? So I'll tell you straight up, the thing that I really like about it is its direct proximity to water. You know, like in Porto, you have the beach, but like we're never at the beach because we live in the city center and we're so far away from the beach. Like we have to actually plan a beach day.
A beach day. Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't think that we would necessarily have to do that if we lived in Figueira da Foz.
Right. I see some pretty extreme pros and cons here.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of just depends on if the pros will outweigh the cons. So that is a massive pro, having the water.
Yeah.
One con to it is the area is very seasonal. So if you're there in the winter, it can get cold and rainy. So like, are you actually going to the beach? And then it feels like it's a little dead. And then you go to the summer where it's quite a big beach destination.
Okay.
So you have a lot of people, which is fine. I think we've been there in the summer and it's buzzing and it's fun, but you have to be prepared. So, okay, you have the beach, but it is very seasonal.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I also think that when we've gone in the off season, the amount of people just kind of like generally outside, at least in the historic city center, seems a bit low. It feels like more people are actually hanging out in the Buracos area, which is north, kind of north above the city center, the historic city center. And that's where life is happening. That's where most, at least Portuguese families that I saw, they seem like they're Portuguese families were hanging out. I like that area, actually, a lot. I don't think I would want to live in the historic city center.
Wait, you can't go there yet.
No, I'm not
We're
going to
not
go there
there yet. Okay, so, and that's not very far. That's obviously very walkable, but to the historic center. So
Yeah.
you could live there and then be in the historic center when you wanted, because that's where the casino is and those restaurants and everything. But yeah, during, like, when the weather's bad or during the winter, it is a lot like calmer of a feel, of a vibe. I like to use the word vibe.
Yeah.
And then it's just very different in the summer. There's a lot going on in the summer. So it's, yeah. We even met someone who lives there, who's been there for a couple of years, and he commented on how it's just very seasonal. And you could even notice it, like going in March, you could see that the housing that faced the water, so many of them had their shutters down. And he was pointing that out because that's where I saw him. He said people use these as vacation homes. So it's beautiful properties, a beautiful view, but like it's really only getting used for maybe the summer or definitely not in the winter. So it gets very sleepy. I do have an issue with that.
Okay, another problem that I find with any of the coastal cities is it's windy.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive to wind, maybe that could be an issue. I'm not super sensitive to wind, but I just wanted to point that out because we have gotten that feedback as we've created these city guides for everywhere around Portugal that we visited. So I think that could be a negative, you know.
Kind of depends. Some people like the wind. So yeah.
Because it cools.
Yeah. I mean, if you have your windows open and stuff, like to have that airflow and the sea feel.
Yeah.
So that could be a pro or con depending.
Yeah, I love the variety of activities that it has in terms of like exercise. You have great places to walk and run if that's your bag. If you want to play soccer, there's pickup soccer. Or maybe it's a little more organized than just pickup games, but you've got that. There are basketball courts. There's gyms out on the beach. And by gyms, I mean like more calisthenics. What else? You've got the tennis courts. You've got pools.
Yeah, I think it's a great place for physical activity inside and outside because
everything you'd expect from a beach town. Right?
Yeah.
You'd expect that from a beach town.
But they had options for inside too, which was nice. So you could definitely continue to exercise running on the beach. They had pathways, or you could run along the promenade, which was really good. They have a bike lane, so that's nice. You could ride your bike.
Yeah.
So I think to be outdoors for sure, they give you a lot of options.
One thing that definitely caught me out compared to living in a city like Porto is when the restaurants open. So many of them seem to open up a half an hour later than what we're used to here in Porto. We're used to 7 o'clock, and then there it was 7:30. So you'd walk into a place and like you could actually walk in, but they would say, oh, like dinner service isn't starting for another, 45 minutes or whatever it is.
Kitchen's closed. You get
the
drinks.
Kitchen's closed.
Yeah.
You can get drinks, you can sit, but it doesn't open until 7:30.
Right.
And that's strange because in Porto, it's definitely changed since we've lived here, where restaurants are opening up their opening hours more, or they're just not even closing between that like mid-service between lunch and dinner.
Right. And you'd imagine in the summer though, it's probably they change their hours.
I'd hope.
I mean, we were in the spring, you would think that it would be like coming alive a little more, and it wasn't. But I would think that in the summer when there's a lot more people, then they have more extended hours. So maybe the kitchen will open a little earlier than 7:30, but it does feel like 7:30 is late, although it is normal for Portuguese to eat dinner much later. So it still lines up with that. But if you're going there for tourism, or if you want to eat earlier for health reasons or whatever it might be, then that could be tricky.
Yeah. As we mentioned, I mean, I really like the walkability of the city. We also had to take a couple Uber rides just to get to places faster because the walking distance would be like a half an hour.
And some hills too.
And hills, and the prices on that were fine.
Yeah,
I'm talking like under €5 to be driven across the city.
Yeah.
So like that's not that big of an issue. We did not try to take the bus, but we just didn't see very many buses running, to be honest.
It didn't seem very frequent. They were like the smaller buses to get in in the downtown area, especially in the narrow roads.
Yeah.
But that's another thing too, connectivity in the city, and then also if you want to get out of the city, the train doesn't service very many places, so you do have the buses that you could take to different cities outside. But it's probably more of a car place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know several people who, when they travel outside of the country, they'll catch a bus to Porto, or maybe either bus or train down to Lisbon to then get their flight. So that's a consideration that I wanted to bring up as well, especially if you don't drive a car. And I think maybe even if you did drive a car and you were going somewhere international, or at least off the Iberian Peninsula, you would probably just want to catch public transportation to one of the two major airports and then go.
Yeah,
like
not
I don't
leave
know
your
if you want
car.
to leave your car there.
Right, unless you know someone.
You
yeah.
probably have like a pretty decent spot to park it in Figueira da Foz, so just like leave it there at
Yeah.
your house or like somewhere at a secure lot. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Because if not, I mean, unless you know someone in one of those cities who could take it for you, park it for you, yeah, and then you're paying probably to have it sit there. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Are we at that time?
I think we're at that time.
All right, so that time is where I want to ask you, would you expat that? So would you want to live in Figueira da Foz for, a couple of years?
I would say no. It's too seasonal for me. While I do like the water, I don't think I would really... the way the water's set up, you've got the beautiful promenade, and then it feels like the beach and water is really far away. So I don't know how much I'd actually be out there enough to want to live there for that aspect of it. But I think it's just too sleepy for me, and overall, it's quite small anyway. So for me, I would say no. You?
Okay. I could, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
So for very similar reasons. I could definitely live there if it was the only place in Portugal to live. I'd live there and be happy.
Yeah.
I'd be
on the
happy.
beach.
But I do think that there are other places, better places that are more interesting to me. Although, Figueira da Foz for a couple years has made like our top 10 list or our top 12 list.
Yeah.
So it's right up there with some of the best places for all the reasons that we mentioned before. But it really just depends on what you're looking for.
Right. It's got something for some people, just not for us.
That's right.
And if you want to see those top 12 cities, then check out this video right here so that you can plan where you should live in Portugal. Now, let's get moving.
Bye.